Alright, um, welcome to another video, guys. In this video I'm going to be talking about the difference between bushings, bearings, and washers of a knife. When I first started out, this was kind of a tricky subject to, not really tricky to learn about, but I didn't know what everybody was talking about when they said the difference between washers and bushings and bearings. I didn't know what all that was until I learned about it. So what I'm going to try and do in this video is I'm going to try and go over these three different things in the knives that you'll hear people talk about off and on. And also this will be my first official video with the GoPro I got, so hopefully it looks a little bit nicer. I'm doing it in 1080p 60 FPS, so let's get into it. A knife that you may all know, the Chimera. These knives run strictly on washers. Now, what I mean by washers are these things. Alright, these are washers. These little tiny bronze pieces of metal. Okay, now that means that you put this handle on, you put the pivot on, you put a washer over the pivot, then you put a blade on top of that washer over the handle that's in the pivot, and then you put another washer in between the blade and the top part of the handle. You may be able to see little bronze pieces of metal in between the knife. And that's all there is to a Chimera. Now you all should know that because most cheaper knives only have washers. They don't have bushing systems or bearing systems. Now, a bushing is a little piece of metal that goes on top of a washer around the pivot. So, here, I'll take this for instance. Don't know what, oh, this isn't tank pin. Alright, take this. This is a tank pin from a BB barfly, and we will pretend that this is a pivot, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to take a washer, we're going to put that over the pivot. And what you would do with a bushing is it is a small round piece of metal that's thicker than a washer, like a lot thicker. Like you would probably have to take 6 of these, maybe even more, to stack up to equal the height of a bushing. And you would put that over the pivot on top of the washer. And that would actually fit in between the blade. The pivot holes in the blade would go over and around the bushing that is on top of the washer, okay? And that is what a bushing is. And now when that is into a knife, that means that you will have less squeeze. If I'm getting this right from what I've been told and what I've heard, it squeezes less on the washers and therefore can have you tighten these down, tighten the pivot screws down as much as possible and still have it be able to swing freely. Now, with a straight up washer knife, you would not be able to do that. If we take the Chimera and see how everything swings pretty freely, but you tighten that down all the way, and well, I can't do it just by hand, but if you tighten that down all the way, it is putting so much pressure on the washers and the blade that this will not swing freely. See, I'm pinching it right now and it won't swing freely. Alright, but you do the same thing with an Alpha Beast, which is a bushing knife, and you can't tighten that at all because it's already tightened down to the fullest, and that thing will still swing freely because of that bushing system. Okay, so there's 2 out of 3 out of the way. Now, I don't have any knives that run on a bearing system, but I have this yo-yo here that runs on a bearing system that I will show you. Alright, so take this. This is a bearing. You should know it if you've ever, skateboarded, played with yo-yos before. It's just a regular ball bearing. Now, there are very small versions of these that people put into knives on top of washers again, I think. Again, I don't know from first-hand experience because I don't have any knives with bearings because I don't really have an interest in them. But this bearing would go inside of the pivot, and again, it would have the same use as a bushing, in that you could tighten this down to the fullest and it'll still swing freely. But the thing about that is, the thing about bearings I've heard is that when you're flipping, it swings so freely and doesn't rely so much on your force and swings so smoothly that sometimes it won't respond to what you're doing to it. It'll just keep swinging and keep going, no matter what you're doing, because it is so smooth, because these bearings can be so smooth and spin for such a long duration of time, whereas you can leave this spinning for a very long time. It could be even longer with a bearing system because it is so smooth and so quick. And again, with bearings, it acts just like bushings in that you can tighten it down to the fullest and it'll still be, you know, super smooth and swing freely. If you've ever seen the production Tac 3s or the custom Tac 3s, those would run on bearings. The Alpha Beasts would run on bushings, and the Chimera line would run just on washers. Now, you can run bushings and washers, just straight washers. And if I'm not mistaken, bushings and, no, not bushing, washers and bearings. I don't know about just bearings, though, so. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure, because you would need the washers for a bearing knife, so. If I'm mistaken, just let me know. But those are the differences between the three. As far as which one I prefer, like I said, I haven't handled a bearing knife, but I really, really love the bushing system. I love the whole basically no handle play. This thing's been kind of used and abused a little bit, and this thing still has no play to it. Whereas if you want to just tighten this to the tightest you can go with it still swinging freely, you have handle play there, which is actually quite impressive on this knife for it being 5 years old. And for a bearing knife, it will probably be about the same as the Alpha Beast, except just a little smoother in the swing zone. Yeah, that was loud. Hope y'all enjoyed that. So those are the differences between bearings and bushings and washers. All of them are good. I haven't heard anything like game-changing about any of them except in the handle play department. And with the flippability, I think bushings and just washers are the way to go. If you can, bushings and washers. I don't really flip this Chimera anymore. It feels kind of weird. But yeah. That's the video. That's all I kind of wanted to get across. Sorry I didn't really take anything apart for this video. Didn't really feel like it, but I wanted to get this information out. Yeah, that's basically it. See if there's anything else I can add. I'm pretty sure there's a few different types of washers that people have used for knives and such, but the only ones I've ever used are phosphorus bronze washers, and those seem to work great. So, yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. More videos with this GoPro soon. I'm going to be getting the head strap for it next week for some first-person flipping and maybe a couple first-person tutorials. So, hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Let me know what you want to see next if you need any more information on anything else. Yeah, that's been the video. Peace out.